You're standing there and someone just said something to you, something that landed wrong, landed hard, and your whole body knows it. Your chest tightens, your face gets hot, there's this rushing sound in your ears, and your brain that never shuts up. That brain that has an opinion about everything just went completely empty. And the worst part? The absolute worst part? Is that you smiled. You actually smiled. You looked away. You made a joke. You changed the subject. You did anything, except the one thing you needed to do, which was say something. Anything that matched what you were actually feeling inside. And now it's 3 days later or 3 weeks later and you're still there, still in that moment, still writing better scripts in your head, still having the conversation you should have had while you're driving, while you're trying to fall asleep while you're in the shower, at 2 a.m. rehearsing comebacks for a moment that's already gone. I know, because I was that person. The person who went quiet when I needed my voice. The person who smiled when I should have stood still. The person who spent years carrying moments that should have died the second they happened, but didn't because I didn't know what to do with them. You didn't freeze because something is wrong with you. You went quiet because nobody ever taught you what to do when someone tests you like that. Nobody ever sat you down and said, here's what's actually happening. Here's what they're doing. Here's what you do back. That ends right now. They're looking for something specific. I need you to understand something about rude people, Beck. Oz, once you see this, you can't unsee it, and everything changes. They're not random. They don't just wake up and decide to be horrible to everyone they meet. They scan every room they enter, looking for something specific, and when they find it, they move. Think about this. The same person who snaps at you is somehow different with other people. They're laughing with someone across the room. They're respectful to their boss. They're sweet to that one coworker. But with you, something always goes wrong. Something always gets tense. That's not an accident. What they're looking for is a reaction window. That tiny moment right after they say something where they watch you. They watch your face, your hands, your eyes. They're reading you. They're testing. They throw out a small comment. Something that could be a joke, could be serious, could go either way. And they watch what you do. If you flinch, they learn, oh, this person moves. If you laugh it off, they learn, this person absorbs. If you go red and stumble, they learn, this person is easy. And once they learn it, they file it away, and next time they go a little further, a little bolder, because you already showed them you won't do anything about it. I learned this the hard way in a meeting 3 years ago where my manager said something about my work in front of 6 people and I froze, completely froze, and smiled and said, yeah, you're probably right, and walked out of that room knowing I had just taught him exactly how much he could get away with. And he did get away with it for 8 more months, until I finally learned what I'm about to tell you. Make them repeat it. Someone says something sharp, something designed to sting and disappear fast, a quick jab, and then they're moving on before you've even processed what just happened. Your first instinct is to defend yourself, to explain, to fire something back. Don't. Let 2 full seconds of silence sit there, then look directly at them, face neutral, and say, can you say that again? That's it, nothing else. They have to repeat it slowly, clearly, in front of everyone. And the second time it sounds different, it sounds worse, it sounds exactly like what it is, which is a deliberately mean thing to say to another human being for no reason. The smirk disappears, the confidence drops, the room goes quiet because now everyone heard it twice. This works because rude comments are designed to move fast, hit, and vanish before anyone can look too closely. When you make them repeat it, you trap it in the light. I used this 6 months after that meeting. When the same manager made another comment about my workload in front of the team, I said, can you say that again? And watched him try to repeat, maybe if you managed your time better, you wouldn't be so overwhelmed. Except, the second time, it didn't sound like helpful feedback. It sounded like what it was, which was him blaming me for his poor planning. He never said anything like that again, not to me, not in front of other people, because I made him hear his own voice say it twice. Name the pattern. This one is for the comments that come wrapped in smiles, the ones disguised as jokes, the ones where if you react they say, relax, I'm just playing, but everyone in he room felt the knife go in. The trap is perfect. Laugh along and absorb it, or react and look like you can't take a joke. Most people laugh, they perform being okay with it, they swallow it quietly. I did this for 2 years with a friend, who always had a comment about my choices, my appearance, my career, always wrapped in, I'm just being honest, or, you know I'm joking. Until one night at dinner in front of 4 other people, she made another joke about how I dress, and instead of laughing, I looked at her and said, "You say things like that pretty often." Simple, calm, completely clean. But those 8 words turned one comment into a documented pattern. They signaled that I'd been watching, that I had memory, that this wasn't invisible to me anymore. She went quiet for the rest of dinner, and 2 days later she texted me, "I didn't realize I did that, I'm sorry." Nobody wants to be the person who always says things like that. Nobody wants their behavior observed and named out loud the moment you make the pattern visible. They have to face who they are, not just what they said once. Look past the weapon. Here's something I didn't understand until I started paying attention. Most rude behavior has nothing to do with you. When someone is carrying something heavy, stress, failure, embarrassment, fear, from somewhere completely outside of this conversation, it doesn't always come out directly. It leaks sideways onto whoever is nearby, onto whoever seems safe to target. You didn't cause it, but you became the landing pad for it. Next time someone comes at you with a dismissive comment, a cutting remark, a condescending tone, don't rise to it. Look at them with genuine calm and say, "You seem stressed? Is everything all right?" You didn't fight back, you didn't shrink, you looked right past the weapon and asked about the hand holding it. Now they have a choice. Admit something is wrong, which drains all the aggression out, or keep being rude while you are visibly publicly being kind, and that second option makes them look terrible. I used this with my sister during a family dinner where she snapped at me about something trivial instead of snapping back. I said, "You seem really stressed, is everything okay?" And watched her face change completely. She teared up and said, "I got passed over for a promotion today," and suddenly we were having a real conversation instead of whatever that was about to become. There's no bad outcome here, either way you win. The public reframe. Some rude people need an audience. They don't do their best work one-on-one. They need witnesses. Because the goal isn't just to make you feel small. The goal is to make everyone else watch you feel small. This is the most calculated type, and also the most fragile, because it depends entirely on the crowd cooperating. Take away that cooperation and the whole thing collapses. You look directly at the person steady and you say, "That was an interesting choice to say out loud in front of everyone." Clean, precise, no heat. But look at what just happened. You drew everyone's attention, not to what they said, but to the fact that they chose to say it here like this, in public. You separated the comment from the crowd, you made the audience aware that a choice was made. A deliberate, observable, questionable choice. Suddenly the group isn't laughing with them, they're watching them, waiting, evaluating. I watched someone use this at a conference when a panelist made a condescending comment to an audience member who asked a question. The audience member didn't yell, didn't defend, just said, "Interesting choice to say that in." A front of 300 people, and the entire room went silent. The moderator moved on quickly, but the panelist looked shaken for the rest of the session. The performance was over. The unshakable silence. This is the hardest one and the most devastating. Someone says something rude, and you say absolutely nothing, but you don't look away, you don't smile, you don't shift, you look directly at them, completely still, completely calm, and you hold it. Just hold it. Most people cannot survive 10 seconds of calm, direct silence after saying something disrespectful. The absence of a reaction sends their nervous system into quiet panic, because silence means they don't know how to read you. Silence means they're exposed with no feedback and no exit. So they fill it themselves. They start explaining, they laugh nervously, they look around, they say, "I was joking," or "You're so sensitive." And in doing that, they apologized without you asking. They defended themselves without you accusing. They handed you their emotional state while you spent none of yours. I did this once with a relative at Thanksgiving who made a comment about my life choices. Instead of defending my choices, I just looked at him, said nothing for what felt key an hour, but was probably 8 seconds, and watched him unravel completely. He started backtracking, started explaining what he really meant, started looking around for help from other people at the table. I never said a word. I just looked at him until he stopped talking, and then I took a bite of food and moved on. He's never said anything like that to me since. Silence isn't empty. It's the loudest statement in the room when everyone else is performing. When nothing works. There are moments where you've tried everything, you've stayed calm, you've held your ground, and they keep going anyway. For those moments, there's one move left. You look at them and say, "I'm not going to keep engaging with this conversation while it's happening this way." And then you mean it. You don't wait for their response. You don't explain yourself. You simply withdraw your attention fully. This isn't giving up. This is the single most powerful thing you can do, because rude behavior is an engine, and what keeps it running is your engagement. Every reaction you give, even a perfect controlled one, is fuel. The clean exit removes you from the game entirely. I had to do this with someone I worked with for 3 years. Someone who, no matter what I said, no matter how calm I stayed, kept pushing, kept testing, kept trying to get a reaction. Finally, in a meeting, I said, "I'm not continuing this conversation while it's happening this way," and I stood up and left. It felt terrible in the moment, it felt like losing, but 2 days later, he apologized, actually apologized, and our working relationship completely changed because I showed him there was a line, and I would enforce it without drama, without explanation. I would just leave. You cannot lose a game you refuse to play. What this actually is. These aren't techniques to win arguments or prove you're right. These are tools to stay standing when someone tries to move you. I spent years being the person who froze, who went quiet, who smiled when I should have been still, who carried conversations in my head for weeks after they happened, rehearsing better responses that would never get used. Every single move I just showed you I learned because I needed it, because I was tired of lying awake replaying moments I couldn't change. Rude behavior isn't powerful. It only looks powerful when it finds someone who doesn't have tools to respond. Take the tools away, and rude behavior is just noise from someone who hasn't learned to manage their own emotions. You're not responsible for managing those emotions, but you are responsible for managing yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal that the things that happen to us don't define us, only how we meet them does. Rude people are going to exist. You can't change that. What you can change, completely permanently, starting right now, is who you are when they show up. You're not the person who freezes anymore. You're the person who stays still when everything else moves. The person who speaks calmly when others expect panic. The person who, without raising their voice or losing their dignity, makes it unmistakably clear, I am not the one. I'm not there yet completely. I still have moments where I freeze, where I think of the perfect response 3 days too late, but those moments are getting rarer, and the gap between what happens and how I respond is getting smaller. And that's all this is closing, the gap between the moment someone tests you and the moment you remember you have a choice in how you meet it. You have the tools now. Which one are you going to use first?